What's going on, guys, and welcome back to this week's Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and this is a new one for me. This is Chicken Cock. You heard that correctly, Chicken Cock. And this comes out of Kentucky. This is a 90 proof bourbon with a rich history behind it, established in 1856, but not really. We'll get into all that in a minute because everybody knows before we get started. Time for the traditional sip. Whew. Little heat. So here we have it, Chicken Cock, and this was actually, something that I wouldn't say I was hunting it exactly, but I have heard a lot about this lately. It seems like everybody's been picking up a bottle, posting a picture of it on Instagram. I don't know if it's just because it's a new release has just come out of this. This is just their 90 proof bourbon. I saw they have like a limited release, like a 10-year, and then before they had like a 25-year release and a 30-year release. But none of that is this. This is their regular 90 proof bourbon. This comes in with two different mash bills, 78% corn, 12% rye, 10% malted barley is the younger mash bill in this, and then the older mash bill is actually 74% corn, 18% rye, which leaves us with the 8% malted barley. So this is telling us that there's a younger and an older mash bill in this, and everything that I found online tells me that this bottle is sourced. The question is, where is it sourced from? So it's bottled right here on the bottle. It does say bottled by Grain and Barrel Spirits, which is in Bardstown, Kentucky. Now, I don't think this is an MGP product, and you dive deep enough, you start to find some things from some people that think they know some things. I don't have any actual physical sources or anything like that. I don't know the people who are in charge of writing these reviews, but I think this is a Bardstown product, Bardstown Distillery. Them being right in Bardstown for the bottling, it kind of makes sense. Maybe they're buying a couple of things from Bardstown. They're putting out their own product here through Chicken Cock, bringing back the brand named 1856 established, brought back to life in 2011. Who knows? Who knows if that's the story or not? Don't quote me on that. I'm not positive this is Bardstown. I reached out to Chicken Cock. I reached out to Bardstown. I asked them both. Neither of them even looked at my post. So we're just going to assume this is sourced either from MGP or Bardstown. But again, I'm leaning towards Bardstown. Let's get into drinkability on this, though. Drinkability on this is, as you could tell from that first sip, not that great. This is only a 90 proof bourbon, and it definitely drinks hotter than that. It does have a rye, obviously, with 18% rye and 12% rye. The 12% from the younger bourbon, which is what I'm going to assume the majority of this bottle is, just because when you don't put out your sources and you don't put out your exact mash bills and all stuff like that, normally it's a younger bottle. Now, this is a Kentucky straight bourbon, so we know it's at least 2 years old, but it's definitely got a rye spice to it. We'll get into that on taste. But as far as the drinkability, the ethanol kick, how smooth this is, it's definitely got a good ethanol, a good heat to it. So for drinkability, I'm going to give this like a 7.2. I don't think it deserves to be up that high. I don't like it that much, but at the same time, it kind of saves itself because the heat doesn't last too long. So I think a 7.2 is a fair spot for it. So with this being a lower proof and a younger aged bourbon, again, it's obviously 2 years old, but I don't think it's too much older than that. It does have the two mash bills, so maybe a percentage of this is an older bourbon, while the rest of it's just holding on to that youth. The taste is tough on this. It doesn't taste bad, don't get me wrong. There's nothing exceptional about it either, though. There's your typical vanilla. It's very thin. So you first drink it, you kind of swirl it around in the glass. It falls down pretty quick. That's a little thing I learned from watching a bunch of other YouTubers. So, you spin the glass. It's the same thing with wine. People do this with wine all the time, and you see the viscosity of it. How quickly does it fall back down the glass? It's very thin. It's very thin, and it's very, it doesn't have a long aftertaste. It's gone. It's in your mouth and it's gone, and then you got to take another sip and then it's gone again. And then the flavors don't really like jump out at you at anything. You get them, they're there, and then they're gone, just like the mouthfeel. So for taste, you're going to pick up a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of caramel, a little bit of oak. And then the one thing that you get on this, which is really weird, is banana. And I don't hate banana at all by any means. It definitely has a banana flavor to it. It's kind of subtle, but at the same time, once you notice it, you're like, okay, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of banana in this. I don't hate that, but at the same time, if it was more apparent, more forward in the flavor profile here, and it lasted a little bit longer, I think it would be a very good bourbon. It's just so quick. It's hey, here's your sip, and then it's gone. You can't taste it anymore. The oak kind of comes and goes. You get it sometimes, you don't get it others. There's not even really a big, with that rye, I thought I would get more like allspice, more black pepper. You do get them, but again, they're there and they're gone. Not exceptional. Nothing Nothing that stands out. And when we're going to get into price on this at $50 to $60 is MSRP on this. At $55, you're expecting something that's, kind of in that premium bourbon range. And this just isn't it. This is what I would consider like your $25, $30 bourbon at most. I think $30 is really pushing it. Because this isn't like, Basil Hayden's isn't exceptional, but at $40, it at least gives you enough flavor that you're like, okay, I would buy this again. Where this one, it's like for $55, like, am I really going to pick this bottle up again just to experience this very light compared to some of the, you're talking, you got to compare yourself to Blanton's at this point, Russell's Reserve, Old Ezra 7, all these other great bottles that are going to give you these barrel strength, extra good flavors. And you're coming out with a 90 proof bourbon that's supposed to give you something, I guess. A cool story is what I guess they're trying to sell. But other than that, you got a cool bottle. So as for taste on this, I'm not going to give it a great score. I'm going to give it like a 7.0 when it comes to taste. I don't hate the taste. It's not bad by any means, but it just doesn't jump out at me. It doesn't knock my socks off, anything like that. So 7.0 is where we're going to keep this one. And last but not least on this, we're going to get into price. And like I just mentioned, this is a $55 bottle of bourbon and a 90 proof bourbon at $55. I'm starting to realize the more and more that I get into bourbon, like what do I want out of a bourbon when I see a certain price point? So I'm not the biggest fan of the Elijah Craig barrel proofs that we've talked about before, but at least you're giving me something there. One, I've got name brand behind it. I know it's Elijah Craig. I know I'm going to at least get that out of it. Then you're getting the barrel proof out of it. So I'm getting 120, 130 proof bourbons. Where this, it's like, what am I getting out of this? What value does this add? Even if it was great drinkability and great flavor, like what are you giving me with this bottle? And with only being that average to below average drinkability and average to below average taste, I don't really know why it would warrant a $50 price tag, except for the fact that they're obviously sourcing the bourbon. It costs money to do that. And I guess they just want to run with this name. You can't even say it's like a extra high rye, so the rye is bringing up the price of it, because there's plenty of high ryes that are $18, $20. Look at Old Grandad. Look at Old Grandad Bondo. Again, $55, you really got to give me something. I don't need it to be, George T. Stagg or Stagg Jr. or anything like that, but I need it to at least be better than what this is right here. So $55, I'm not going to give this a great score. Let's give it let's keep it right down where it's at right now. Let's give it like a 6.9. Seems fair. So while I add these scores up, let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about Chicken Cock and a little bit of history behind it, because there's not that much, but we'll go over what I like. So for this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to go over Chicken Cock and a little bit of history behind it that I do want to tell you about. Obviously established in 1856 in Paris, Kentucky. Now, I didn't know Paris, Kentucky existed, but apparently it does. I thought the only Paris I knew about was overseas. Well, that's when Prohibition hit, and like most other distilleries, they decided between three options. Option number one, sell your stuff as medicinal purposes, go through the government, get your licenses, all of that kind of stuff. They said no. Option number two, shut down, don't sell at all. They said no. Option number three, door number three, go underground, sell your stuff illegally. They said yes to that. So they went underground. They started smuggling their stuff into speakeasies through tin cans, undisclosed tin cans. And that's where they got famous. They got famous in the Cotton Club, which was New York City speakeasy from 1923 to 1940. And that's where they got labeled the famous old brand, which is right here on this bottle here. Now, the Cotton Club is exactly what it sounds like. Pretty racist club, I'm sure, at the time. So we're not going to talk too much about them. But then Chicken Cock actually burned down in the 1950s, and from then they kind of waded away and fell off and stopped distilling at some point. That is until 2011 when somebody figured out the story on Chicken Cock, the famous old brand, and of course, like every other bourbon today, they got to make their money off of it, so they resurrected the name, and that's where we got this, which, again, this bottle is pretty cool. I do like this bottle. Everything else, though, average at best. But let's get back to our scores so I can tell you exactly how average it is. Let's do this. So there's a little bit of the history behind Chicken Cock. It's kind of your traditional bourbon story, like when you really think about it. What happened? Shut down during Prohibition, resurrected family name, found a bottle under a floorboard somewhere, and now we have to make it because everybody's making a buck off something, and they got me on this one. $55 in the hole because of this. And this is going to come in at a 7.03. Not a great spot. Could be worse. Again, it's just mediocre at best. It's overpriced, okay bourbon, if you ask me. That's where we're going to leave it today, 7.03. I won't keep you too long because I don't really want to drink any more of this. But make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. We drop an image of the bourbon that we're going to review every Tuesday at 4 p.m. You can go on there and try and guess the score that I'm going to give it. If you guess the closest, you'll get a shout out on the channel, as well as entered in a drawing every month to try to win a prize from the channel. Make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit that subscribe. Don't drink and drive, drink responsibly, stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all.